I'm going to give myself an introduction. Hey, everybody, I'm Ali. I'm co-founder and CEO of LegalMate. We've been working in legal space for the last 4 years. I've been an entrepreneur, previously created companies and started them and sold them, all the way from being VC backed to running this company now. So I've been doing it for 4 years now, and our primary focus is that we focus on law firms and we help them scale efficiently and effectively through automations. Today, this webinar is pretty much more for talking and seeing what everyone says, and kind of have a just a conversation with each other. So don't be afraid to jump in and ask me questions as we're going through it. And then yeah, I do. Chris, I think you accidentally drew on my board. I'm not sure how to remove that, so I'm gonna try to remove it before we keep going. Okay, there you go. Perfect. Okay. Um, okay, so as we're going, the things that we'll cover today in our webinar is what exactly is automation, what to consider with automation, general automation solutions that are out there, and then most common workflows that we've seen that firms are automating. And then lastly, there's going to be a question period where people have ideas or different questions for me. I'm happy to always kind of go back and forth in terms of what's useful in automating and whatnot. So, yeah, again, this webinar is very much like if you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat and or unmute yourself and ask me. So what exactly is automation? The way to think about automation is there's always going to be a trigger that happens either inside your Clio or outside your Clio, and a software is going to be listening for it, and then they're going to be filtering or doing conditionals in that, and then there's going to be an action that's taken on behalf of the trigger that happened. So it's a very simple framework to always remember in automation is trigger, listen, and filter, and then action. And, as you guys are thinking about these trigger filter action, the advantages for automations for law firms are huge. Kind of like, why would you even want to automate your law firm? Simply put, you want to take back time, so you can focus on things that are the most important for your law firm. You want to reduce the unbillable hour and reduce the errors that kind of get put out for your clients. So you produce a really high um, quality of work in the end of the day. Peace of mind, things are always going to get done because a machine is doing it. And the experience that your client gets on the other side is also amazing because they get a quality of product that's going to be really high quality every single time. There's going to be faster turnaround for routine tasks, enhanced productivity, and lastly, it allows you to scale really fast and easily without hiring a lot more new personnel. And then, a lot of people kind of get scared that am I going to get replaced by this from a job? The answer is no. It's actually complementing you to do your work faster. It's the same way of like when a typewriter was built or Microsoft Word came out. All of these are tools that you use to make your work and yourself more efficient to be able to do. When you're thinking about automations, you want to consider what you want to be actually implementing in your law firm and not actually, kind of like where to even begin and what to actually start to do for your automations and what are good areas for you to automate. Um, think about a task that you do a lot inside your firm, and I would love to kind of hear what people are talking about and or thinking about automating or do a task a lot. Few of those examples could be, always creating the same folders in your cloud storage, always creating the same task for your firm, all of these different things that you're doing over and over all the time. I would love to hear, drop them in the chat, and see what people are doing a lot of the same task. Gonna wait. So before you kind of begin, like one of the advice I always give to every single person is start small. Focus on something that's very, very, very repetitive, and that's like crucial. That's always a bottleneck, and you know doesn't require a lot of personal oversight. Yeah, generating documents is a pretty big one, and and that's where a lot of people usually generally start. The second thing is you want to think operationally. You want to be more of like standardizing your whole practice and allowing it to expand and grow. So, one of the examples I usually give is like very easy one is like remember to, create a standardized client folder creation when a new client is created. So that could be like all of the drafts go in here, all of the pleadings, all of the documents. You kind of create this folder structure that's always the same inside your law firm for a type of case that you always do. So when you hire new people, they exactly know where all of the different files are, and it's always standardized. So you're not always copying and pasting the same folder structure over and over. This automation is doing it for you behind the scenes. And then assess your workflows, like understand what people are doing and kind of go from what is happening and write it down. And see all the way from like onboarding to closing a um, matter what people are doing and see where a lot of the small tasks are and identify them. This is one of my favorite kind of like visualization that I kind of tell people that even though these things might seem very small in terms of the task that you're doing, so like copying and pasting a same folder, the reality is that every time you do these small tasks, the to in order to do the next task, it's a ramp up time. It takes a bit longer to do that thing over and over. And you never really get to the flow state or to be able to do the work right away because you're always doing these small tasks and these small tasks kind of add up and you end up spending a lot of time. So, the expectation is like, oh, it'll take me very quickly. I'll be able to do this. But the reality is like you do the task, you get distracted, and it takes a bit longer to get back into the main thing that you were doing for your client. The other thing on the opposite side is like what things not to automate. These are like, super complex tasks that require more human touch. So that could be like, if you're writing a brief that is very unique and very much require a lot of your time, probably not the best time to automate that. So those are like very, very complex tasks and they take a long time to automate and it might not be worth it to do them in the end. Infrequent task, if you get a type of case that you don't handle very often, you handle it once or twice a year, it's probably not worth it for you to automate it because you just don't have the volume for it to justify the cost that will take it to do it. Lastly, this one is something that we always preach is like, your job as a lawyer is to be very much with your client, to work with them, and personalization is a very big touch point of that. And your clients want to be able to talk to you and understand the things that you're doing. So personalization is a pretty big one that like we tell you to, we can enhance the client communication, but if there's parts that you want to personalize in there, is they're probably not the best to automate. I'm going to go over the general automation solutions that are out there in the market for you to be able to use, and kind of going from very complex to very easy to kind of set up. So, the very complex side is you kind of are a developer, you're building them for yourself, coding it yourself, Python, APIs, JSON, all of these things. And you pretty much are a developer. That's where the higher effort lens is. The second up is like these general developer friendly tools that we've seen kind of proliferate out into the market. These are like the Airtables, the softwares of the world, where they're almost like a semi no code tool. They're very general purpose built tools that you can utilize to do the thing that you want, but you have to invest a lot of time and effort to build them just for what you want it to do. Then this, third one that is very popular that a lot of people might know here is Zapier and Make.com. They're generally no code tools. You can also code in them if you want with JavaScript and kind of create these very complex automation in the end, but you have to still spend a lot of time and effort in order to make them and debug them if they break. It's a tool that you can use to do a lot of things, and frankly, we do recommend that tool a lot to people who are more inclined to do things themselves and want to understand, are curious on what they can and can't do. A lot of people start from Zapier and Make.com and start with a very small automation there, and then kind of progress. The next one up is you hire a consultant. They could be a Clio certified consultant, a Zapier consultant, or Make.com consultant. They come in, they help you kind of figure out your workflows and kind of build them inside Zapier and Make.com, and then hand over the account back to you. And off you go. If there's any errors or things break, you got to go back to them to help fix it. That's another area that you guys can potentially look for in order to do your automation. Last one is us. We're automation as a service. You can come to us. We're low effort. We learn your automation and build them on our platform and launch them. We're very, very legal specific and only focus on legal. So understand your workflows really well. Know very, very, very deep understanding of Clio and have endpoints that like Make or Zapier don't have on our platform. Just gonna go very quickly over the each different solution and like the pros and cons. As I said, for DIY, you've got a big budget, you've got a lot of customization you want to do, you want to scale it, and you want to have full control. That requires hiring a developer. It's a pretty high cost. The maintenance cost can get out of hand because you want to scale it up, and then you want to make sure the security is really high and it works for you. And then their upkeep with the changes of the software that's going to be coming. So if there's any API changes that are happening behind the scenes for the software that you're using, you have to make sure that your software works with them. So this is a very expensive solution, more so for really, really large law firms that want to build their own solution in-house. Second one is these no-code tools, as I said, like Zapier, Make.com. They're user-friendly. They a lot of times have templates that you can utilize to start off, and they're cost-effective. However, they scale with you. So as you start using more and more of them, they'll get more and more expensive because they're consumption-based pricing. So if you use 1,000 tasks, 1,000,000 tasks, it kind of increases with the cost of that thing. The con is they're not really built for legal. They do have legal softwares like Clio and my case on them. Um, however, oh, sorry, I'm gonna mute you. However, there's limitations for features for the Clio for like legal specific because they're not focused on that. So they might not have all of the endpoints inside those software. As software changes, because legal is not their focus, things will break, and it gets irritating and annoying. Always trying to figure out what broke inside these workflows. They don't always scale easily, is what I've seen, because as you scale, you'll start to figure out things that are breaking, and then it's not always easiest to figure out because then you're running like, thousands of workflows, and some of them are breaking and trying to figure out what they're breaking and what's not. And lastly, you still require some knowledge of programming. You need to understand what a JSON is. You need to understand what an API is. You need to understand what a webhook is. All of these are very programming paradigms. If you don't really fully understand them, it can be annoying and complex to really use these tools. Consultants, there we've got a few of them on this call. They're usually the pros are the experts. They have experience. They'll build a tailored solution. The cons are, of course, cost because you're hiring somebody. There's some dependency on them as things are changing. You might have less control and the initial time to investment, but always a great route to take too. Lastly, there's LegalMate. We have pre-built automation that you can use that we've seen the most common workflows for Clio. They're tailor-made for Clio and for law. They're quick and easy to set up, and we are proven to be reliable, and we tend to be more cost-effective in the end of the day. We don't have like the full customization that you might see from Zapier or Make.com, but we do customize it. You'll have a bit less control on every single aspect of it. And the con might be that you might have to hang out with me. But that's our pre-built automations. I'm going to take a pause here. If anyone has any questions about different different tools that I've just kind of highlighted about which ones to use, which ones not, before I kind of go straight into the most commonly automated Clio workflows that we've seen recently. Okay, no questions. So I'm gonna keep going. So this one is one of my newer favorite features that Clio has released recently. It's the stages. It's a Kanban board, very close to a Kanban board for all of your matters. However, they didn't really release a lot of automations with it. So that's where we step in and can help you automate it. So essentially, every time you move from one stage to the next, there are automations that you can kick off that you can do inside your Clio and a little bit outside of Clio too. So here is an example of like, hey, you update a matter stage inside Clio, then you would want all of these different things to happen, which is update a certain type of custom field, send a text message to the client being like, hey, this is where your case is. This is the status of it. This is when this was happened. So kind of give a status update through a text message or an email. You can create a note automatically with whatever you want inside of your Clio. You can create a task or like task list right from there. So, if it goes from trial prep to trial, you can create a task list for trial and go deeper into that. So the trigger point is in updating the matter stage inside Clio, and then all of these different actions that can happen outside of it. So this is kind of like a workflow that we've seen being utilized a lot by different firms. And because it's a Kanban and you can use it in different practice area, you can create different practice area stages and allow you to create all of these different stages in there that when you update something, it will give you all of these different actions that you can do. The other one that we've seen a lot is Clio Task Automation. A lot of people use these tasks, and a lot of people sometimes have complaints about different things that they want to do. Clio is generally built for a broad use case, so people might want to have very specific use case on how they want to do task automation. So this is over here. We've kind of built different task automations that can come out of it. So an example is when you complete a task, automatically creating document for it, creating the next task, and doing all of these different things that you might do when a task gets completed. So, as I said, that could be document generation, that could be sending an email to the client with an update, that could be creating a note inside your Clio, that could be assigning another task. So, one thing that we've seen with task list that a lot of people don't like is like you will have like 10 or 20 different tasks right away inside your matter, and then you don't know which one to focus on. So what we generally recommend is that there's always a next task that happen after one task is finished. So we can create task workflows that when one task is finished, the next one gets created and gets assigned to either a paralegal in your firm or originating attorney, responsible attorney. And we can assign these dynamically depending on different matters. So it doesn't always have to be assigned to that same person every single time, like it is inside Clio Task List. We can dynamically assign them. So if there's a custom list of a paralegal inside that matter, we will be able to pick that custom list, take out the paralegal, and assign that task to that paralegal that you tell us that this task always gets assigned to a certain party or a group of people inside that matter. So tasks are a great jumping point as a trigger to be able to do a lot of different things. And that could be creating a new task, as I said, sending an email or generating a new document. Client intake, this is a huge one too, and can save a lot of time for a lot of people. What this generally is that if you're using like Acuity or Calendly or Microsoft Booking.com, any of these ones, what generally ends up happening is you have a form on your website, you book something through Acuity, and then what we do is we pick it up, we find the client inside your Clio Grow. We make sure that if the client exists, create that matter under that client. And if it doesn't exist, create a new client inside Clio Grow or manage. And then, from there on, we can do more things like send a welcome text message or send them an intake form or create a contact inside Dialpad. All of these things can happen from this trigger point of like someone booking a meeting with you inside Acuity and Calendly. We've seen a lot of people utilize this workflow overall because that's a great intake. Because what ends up happening is a client will be calling different law firms, and whoever answers the first and gets a meeting booked, they generally usually end up going with them. So if you can get on your calendar the meeting for client intake and actually send them a welcome message and intake form, they're more likely to engage with you and hire you as a attorney than, just sending an email and not getting a reply back. We ran a test with one of our law firms that, if someone booked a meeting with them, we sent them a text message to their dial pad with the intake form from Clio Grow. About 60% of those intake forms were opened and or completed on the device, which meaning on their cell phone when we send out that text message. So they had a great uptake in conversion from that perspective. And that's why these workflows become really important because, they know that the client is getting the best experience from there on. This one, I think I mentioned this early. So these are like if you use different cloud storages like Google Drive or Dropbox or Box.com or OneDrive, when a new matter is created, and depending on what type of matter it is, we find the client folder that Clio creates, and then we can create a set of new folders inside of that matter folder because you don't want to recreate all of those things over and over again. And that could be like, if it's an immigration matter and it's adjustment of status, you want to have like, different pleadings and different forms that are automatically copied and pasted in that directory, we can do that. And then the cool thing from there on is we can also listen to different things getting uploaded in those folders. So let's say again, I'll use like an immigration example. If you're uploading new receipts that are coming from USCIS to you on behalf of your clients, we can listen to those receipts being uploaded into that folder. And when a new receipt gets uploaded, we can listen to it, send out an email to the client, be like, hey, we just got this in mail. This is what this means, and send that out to the client right away when you upload a new document with a specific name inside that folder. So we've seen a lot of people utilize this because if you're getting a lot of different mail on behalf of your client and you need to send them updates, this is a great way to do it because then you don't have to always send an email and then you might forget. So this one creates a great client experience from there on. Additional examples that we've seen that are pretty awesome that we've created for our clients is different billing tasks. So these are like calculating and sending out evergreen retainer requests. So like looking at how much money is left in the retainer, how much they should always have in their retainer, and what the invoice is, and calculating the evergreen retainer request from there on. But not only just calculating it, adding it to the bill before you send out in your Clio, we can automatically do that. And then we can automatically, update a bill with any of these different calculations that you want. And before you send it out to the client, have that on inside your bill inside Clio. Additional task automation, I think I kind of went over this a little bit, where when a task is completed, you can generate new documents. You can send out email from your inbox, so that will go out if you use Microsoft or Gmail. We can create a draft inside your inbox or send it out inside from your inbox. We can create a new task, so you can chain different tasks together. If this task gets done, then this task gets created. If this one's done, the next one gets created. And then we can also send out calendar invites from there on, like, book a meeting with a client and they'll send out a certain calendar invite with a certain time that you tell us, which will be dynamically calculated. Calendar automation is what we've also seen has been really useful. So if there is a calendar event on your calendar that says, trial, when the trial finishes, there's a certain task list that gets created right away. Email gets sent out to the client before that task, so to make sure that they show up. You can create a time entry inside Clio to make sure that, like, if you showed up there, you're getting compensated and paid for that time. You can also create a task list. So calendar automation that we've seen is very useful. You mark a calendar, a certain thing, and then that will trigger a lot of things. Lastly, this one is what we've seen also being really useful is closing a matter. So if you're, let's say, a criminal or family divorce or any of these different types of law firms, what we end up generally doing for these workflows is we ask the law firm to rate the client from 1 to 5 of experience of working with that client. And then depending on, like, if it's a 4 or a 5, we will send a text message or an email to the client to have them rate the law firm on Google or Facebook because that drives a lot of word of mouth. Uh, and then you don't have to always be like, oh, did I send that client to leave a review for my law firm? This will help you grow really fast. because word of mouth is one of the biggest ways to grow as a law firm. Yeah, we can also create closing documents that says that like we're done representing you as a client. This is the work that we've done, and then using that to send out a closing email to the client. So you kind of close off the whole matter in that one aspect. I'm gonna take questions, and if other people have ideas of different automations that they want to talk about, I would love to hear what people are doing and wanting the automation to do. So now is a great time to kind of jump on, ask me questions. Things that can be automated and cannot be automated would be a great time for us to kind of chat through about it. Um, if if people don't have any questions, or how does your product compare to Legal Boards? Legal Board is a more of a Kanban tool that is lives outside of Clio. We live inside of Clio essentially. That we don't want you to leave Clio. We work always in the background. So if things are happening, we will be the one like helping you do those tasks as we said. So you don't have to use another tool beside your Clio. So think of us as like pipelines between us and your task automation rather than having another Kanban board that you use outside of Clio. So pretty similar but a bit different in the end, Lindsay, for how the products compare. Um, Also, if anyone has any and want to chat with us in terms of like their automation needs, we're more than happy to always connect. So um, this is my info. So, any issues using your product alongside Fast? No, there's no issues using our product alongside Faster Law. Clio, actually, a lot of times recommend Faster Law for certain things. Like, if your Clio drive isn't working as well, might recommend you to use Faster Law because their drive works, from what we've seen, better. So yeah, there's no issues using our product alongside Faster Law. We're just an add-on, just like Faster Law. Do you have any examples of automations gone wrong? In other words, anything not to automate your experience? And also, what about AI? Yeah, as I said, like if you're doing a lot of personalization in terms of like sending out client updates, we tend to tell you to not just send that update out, actually create a draft inside your inbox that you can monitor and send out. For a lot of these things, when we do them, we want the human to still be in control. So that's a little bit difference between us and like a Zapier and Make.com. We still want the lawyer and law firm to be in control. So when we create these automations, we tend to do them in a way that the lawyer is still in control. So instead of just sending out the email, we might create a draft inside your inbox to send it out. Um, so you can personalize it a little bit. And that's where we kind of focus on. Things not to automate are things that are very complex and long-winded, and can take a long time to get right. And they have a lot of edge cases, also, George, because like that can invest a lot of time and effort for not a lot of upside in the end of the day. So that's another thing. Also, what about AI? We've seen AI being utilized in different aspects. The best ways we've seen AI being utilized is using it to get information out of unstructured data. So if you're getting a lot of emails from the courts or from dockets that are like very much regional in your area, and you want to take out the date and time from that email, a good way would be to take that email, send it to OpenAI and ChatGPT. Please buy a paid account so they don't train on it, so that data is always private and is privacy focused. And then get a return back from like asking a question is like, what time is this court hearing, or can you give me details about the court hearing? And then it can give you the date and time, and then you can use that to create a calendar event for you. So those areas where it's very unstructured data and you need to get some information out of that data is where we've seen AI being utilized really, really well. Um, so, that's where I've seen very powerful areas. And then if you're like a very specific law firm like personal injury, there's tools like Even Up now that allow you to generate a demand letter really fast with all of the information you have. But that's very specific use case with AI. And I can talk a little bit more about that if you want. Kirk, what about OneDrive automation? What advantage does LegalMate offer over Clio built-in solution? So yeah, great question, Kirk. So Clio built-in OneDrive solution is when you create a new matter or a new client, it will go create a folder for that client and create the folder for that matter. What we will do on top of that, Kirk, is if you have a specific type of folder creation that you want, so that could be like inside the matter folder, I want, your pleadings folder, your trial prep folder, your draft folders. We can go create all of those folders in that matter folder. And on top of that, if there's other folders that you usually copy and paste all the time, like different templates or different types of you know documents that you always utilize for the same firm, we can copy a specific folder inside your OneDrive and paste it inside that matter folder. So you will always have those templates ready on hand. So you're not always copying and pasting it. And then on top of that, one of the examples I give is like if there's a folder that you want us to always listen to, because there's things getting uploaded in there, we can listen to that folder. And if you upload any type of document in there that have a very specific name, we can take that document and create a draft inside your inbox to send it out as an update. So we take the Clio, what Clio has built in, and we enhance it to be very specific and built for your law firm from there on. So yeah, that's the difference between our automation and what the Clio has already built. So great question, Kirk. Um, do people have other questions for me? Because these are great. I'm loving different ideas that people have. Uh, if people don't have any more questions about this, again, we're always here. Reach out to us. We love talking about automation and can help you guide through your journey for automation. And yeah,